shift. You may enter.
Tim Hortons new beef lasagna casserole served with garlic toast, just $4.49.
Kleenex brand tissues are Canada's softest. No wonder people want to share them on and on. Send a Kleenex brand share package for free today at Kleenex.com. Kleenex, softness worth sharing.
As we remember and honor them, we give thanks for what they did for us.
War and remembrance. Moving ceremonies take place across the viewing area. Reporter Christy Bazaire takes a November 11th flight in a Stearman biplane. Another solar farm is going up in a residential neighborhood, and too bad if the neighbors don't like it. And from surfing the world's biggest wave to hanging 10 with a goat.
CTV News with Jim Crichton.
Good evening. Although Remembrance Day is always special, this year's date sets it apart. It's the 11th day of the 11th month, 2011. And when services took place this morning, also the 11th hour. We prepared a number of stories for you tonight. Michelle Molesky reports on the ceremony in downtown Windsor at the Cenotaph at City Hall Square.
Jim, this morning's service ran about an hour, and while the focus was, of course, our veterans, children were featured prominently throughout.
We can live together when all the world is free.
As we remember and honor them, we give thanks for what they did for us, for our country and the world.
We had a job to do. We done the job. I'm pretty sure we done the job. But it's just too bad everyone couldn't come back again.
And that's what this day is about, remembering those who never returned.
We all have a name. Each and every one of us have a name of someone who we remember. I would ask you to say those names again. We're going to do it this year. No need to shout. Just say the name.
Harper Kersey brought a picture of her grandfather, a soldier in the Second World War, to the ceremony.
Just coming from a military family, just seeing all of them out here, it's really emotional. I don't, it's just hard to see that they would sacrifice themselves for other people, and I greatly appreciate that.
During Windsor's Cenotaph ceremony, the next generation took center stage. Instead of laying a wreath, students placed their poppies near the cenotaph, and many gave veterans a letter of appreciation.
Children have a better understanding of what happened a long time ago and why they have the freedom, the opportunity, and they're lucky to be in Canada. You know, Canada is a little bit above most other countries.
The poppies grow in Flanders field.
After the ceremony, I noticed there were quite a few groups of students getting their picture taken with a veteran. It was a nice thing to see, and I know it means so much to our vets. I've talked with many over the years, and they say the only thing worse than having to go to war would be for their sacrifices and those of the men and women who never came home to Windsor to be forgotten. Jim?
Michelle, thank you. Michelle Molesky tonight. It's a symbolic salute that's always an important part of our Remembrance Day ceremony. 3 local pilots in vintage aircraft have been conducting a fly-past of the downtown Cenotaph each November 11th for more than a decade. Earlier, they invited our Christy Bazaire to fly along with them. She joins me now. Christy?
Well, Jim, it's a somber flight, but one that's propelled by history, memory, and meaning for the local pilots who dedicate their spare time to honoring veterans.
The particular pilots that learned how to fly in them eventually went off to war. They flew fighters and bombers, and a lot of them did not come home. So when we fly these airplanes, we are in fact honoring their memory.
It's an emotional flight, and one that's clearly marked by the memory of the pilots who flew years ago while serving their country.
The Canadian Historical Aircraft Association allowed me to suit up and fly along in its 1941 open cockpit Stearman biplane. The lead Yellowbird aircraft flies in formation with 2 de Havilland Chipmunks from the 1950s.
They're slow, they leak oil, they have character.
Known as trainers, these were the planes that pilots learned to fly in.
Training aircraft are always yellow. It's almost a warning to anyone around that these people are learning how to fly, so beware.
The U.S. gave Canada about 100 Boeing Stearmen to train pilots for World War II. Canada didn't end up using many of the planes because they're difficult to fly and their engines have trouble in cold weather. The pilots fly the vintage aircraft every Remembrance Day and at funerals for veterans.
The plane has a particular smell to it that I like, and I feel connected because of the kind of aircraft I get to fly.
In the air, the goal is to fly the 3 planes as close as possible so they almost appear as one.
This is an important thing for us to do, not only for the World War I and II vets, but for our vets coming home from Afghanistan, and I just wanted to say welcome back. We're glad to have you home.
When we fly, they fly. You know, I can't help but feel some of those spirits with me when I'm flying the Stearman.
And if anyone watching at home is interested in taking flight in one of the Yellowbirds, the Canadian Historical Aircraft Association offers flights on the weekends for donations.
Christy,
Jim?
I have to say I'm very envious of you. Any other impressions of your flight in a vintage aircraft?
You know what, Jim? It was fun. My face is still a little bit windburned because of the open cockpit, but the one thing I did notice is I felt pretty safe even though it was an open cockpit, which I wasn't sure about at first. So I had a good pilot, though.
We were down below on the ground at the service, and you flew over precisely at 11 o'clock for remembrance. Christy Bizaire, thank you, Christy. We won't forget that. Well, across the country, Canadians have been taking the time to thank the men and women who fought and died for our freedoms. The largest Remembrance Day ceremony in this country, at least, was in Ottawa. That's where we find CTV's Richard Madden.
Symbolized by this flyby of military choppers paying tribute to service in Afghanistan.
My brother is with me every day.
And its fallen, including Corporal Albert Storm, killed in battle 5 years ago this month.
Smart kid, big mouth, big heart, huge hands. Loved his job and loved his country.
Hi, Walt. How are you? Among the dignitaries, the Prime Minister, General Walt Nitinchuk, and Governor General David Johnston, wearing his uniform as Commander-in-Chief. All later joined Silver Cross Mother Patricia Braun, who laid the wreath to honor Canada's war debt. Many veterans who served in the Second World War were also here, including Navy Captain Harold Chase, who recalls the exact moment he heard the war was over.
I didn't drink then, so I couldn't have a drink, so I think I just had another cigarette and a big grin on my face.
Helen Baxter tied the knot.
Got married.
You got married?
Of course. And my husband was a soldier as well.
While their numbers may be dwindling, their service will never be forgotten, as thousands of poppies line the tomb of the unknown soldier as a powerful symbol, lest we forget. Richard Madden, CTV News, Ottawa.
Canadians gathered in Afghanistan this morning for what will be the last Remembrance Day ceremony at Kandahar Airfield. Defense Minister Peter MacKay read each of the 158 names of Canadian soldiers killed while serving their country during the Afghan mission. Family members of some of the fallen were present. About 1,000 soldiers are still posted in Kandahar. Taking a brief break now as Arms Boomenlag is back with us and joins us with his first live look at the weather outside. Arms?
Thanks so much, Jim, here at Dieppe Gardens this evening with more Remembrance Day coverage coming up in less than 20 minutes on CTV Weather as we talk to some veterans and active members of the service as we take a look at temperatures tonight. And it's a cold one out here to kick off this Friday, but warming up tomorrow. We had a mostly cloudy day today, chilly too, with some lake effect cloud cover for the duration of this Friday. And that's starting to break down now with the risk of showers dropping drastically throughout the evening. 5 in Windsor, 5 in Chatham-Kent, and 5 in Sarnia. Now you can see on radar this evening most of the activity over Lake Lake Michigan winding down. Cloud cover remains only for a little bit longer. And then we have southwesterly flow that's going to take over. That's going to allow for some warm air advection to pump in, along with a building ridge over the course of the evening into tomorrow morning. Clearing's going to take hold and provide some really nice conditions for Saturday. And then a little bit of a soggy Sunday in store with our next weather maker from the plains. More coming up on our 7-day planner tonight on CTV Weather. So watch for those temps to slowly edge out tonight into tomorrow morning at 10 p.m. And this evening still a cooler one at 439 Fahrenheit as those winds shift from the west and into the southeast, clearing skies too. And just